They're not even trying to hide their grotesque vision for America anymore. Here's a Republican lawmaker in Missouri defending child marriage. Just listen to what he said when his Democratic colleague pushed him on the issue.
I've heard you talk about parents' rights to raise their kids how they want. In fact, I just double-checked. You voted no on making it illegal for kids to be married to adults at the age of 12 if their parents consented to it. You said, actually, that should be the law because it's the parents' right and the kids' right to decide what's best for them, to be raped by an adult. Okay?
Do you know any kids who have been
With
married
marriage.
at age 12?
That was the law. You voted not to change it.
Do you know any kids who have been married at age 12?
I don't need to.
I do. And guess what? They're still married.
So, yes, in the year of our Lord 2023, you just heard a Republican defending a practice that is widely considered to be a human rights violation. But this isn't just about one child rape apologist. These are the views that are taking over the country, clawing their way into the culture wars and into our laws. And keep in mind, these are minority views. Per this recent survey, only 10% of Americans view themselves as adherents of Christian nationalism. 19% of Americans say they sympathize with these views. These are not big numbers, but the survey found that Republicans are about 4 times more likely than Democrats or independents to be adherents of Christian nationalism. And they are practically salivating over taking away even more freedoms, emboldened by the hyper-conservative court that made their Roe-ending dreams come true. Joining me now is Frank Schaeffer, author of Why I Am an Atheist Who Believes in God. And Frank, the good news today, sort of temporary good news, that we will not see a nationwide ban on mifepristone is good. But I think a lot of people are still nervous because this is still what really reads like a Christian nationalist court. What do you make of it all today?
Well, Joy, you know my background. My father, Francis Schaeffer, was really the grandfather of the whole anti-abortion movement in terms of evangelicals that morphed into the Christian nationalist movement that has taken over the Republican Party, that does everything from keeping guns on our streets, because this is the backbone of the NRA, to closing abortion clinics. And now we have a ruling that has just been stayed, as it were, to try to ban what is known commonly as the abortion pill. But listen, I just have to point something out. These are not legal rulings. None of these are. This is political machination and planning by the hardcore Christian nationalists in the GOP, using people like Judge Comiskey and Alito, and Thomas, and it has nothing to do with our traditions of law or the separation of church and state. When you look at someone like Amy Coney Barrett and the people around her, you have to understand that the only reason they were appointed was because they were on a checklist provided by the Federalist Society to Donald Trump as the condition of him getting elected. People like Billy Graham's son, Franklin Graham, who I grew up with and knew when my dad was a big-time evangelist as well, made a deal with Trump and said, you will have our support if you promise to appoint these judges. Well, now we are seeing the result. None of this is to do with the law. This is to do with a judicial coup against our democracy. These people are authoritarian. They fear democracy. They want to overturn elections. The Christian nationalist movement is a halfway point to a kind of authoritarian fascism. It's not anything to do with America anymore. This is beyond that. So this action by the Supreme Court is tactical, Joy. They realize that in overturning Roe, they have basically pissed off the majority of Americans. And what they are doing now is just taking a position of retreat, regrouping, and then they're going to go at it again. This abortion pill will be banned, just like Roe was overturned at some point, if they get their way. The only reason this would change is if they tactically look at it and understand that they will lose the presidency, the House, and the Senate. And that's where the ordinary American voter had damn well better stand up and be counted in the next few elections, or we're going to see these people turn our country into an evangelical Christian version of Iran. That's what we're headed to. That's what these folks want to do. And any moderation they show is simply tactical. It has nothing to do with changing opinion or backing off.
Frank, what is the end game? I mean, they want mandatory, the 10 Commandments displayed in school. That means parents then have to explain what adultery is to a child. I thought they didn't want sexual grooming of children. They want child marriage to be legal, child labor to be legal, essentially trans people to be made illegal. What kind of a world do they think that they're going to be creating? And why is it that they're not content to simply create that world at home, in their own homes, and not try to impose that on blue states who very clearly don't want it?
Yeah, you have to understand, these are true believers, and true believers are very dangerous people. You know, ask the Iranian women who try to take off their headscarf how this is working out. Ask Saudi women who have been jailed and tortured for doing something as abominable as wanting a driver's license. We have to understand, right now in the world, there is a worldwide phenomena, a turn toward the right, a turn towards Hindu nationalism, extremism in Israel on the West Bank by the settlers there, extremism here in this country by Christian white nationalists. This is not isolated only to America. We are in a fight for democracy. We are in a fight for civil rights, for our very lives as Americans, and for women's rights to have autonomy over their own body. That is going to be the big driving line, but they will not stop there. My friends who are married, my producer of my podcast, Ernie, who's married, a gay man, married to a pastor, 17 years, he now fears for his marriage. He's not pretending. He actually fears for it, with good reason, because these guys have an agenda, and that agenda, we've only seen the first taste of it. The next few elections will decide how far they can get with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And in Florida, one of the flacks for the current governor essentially invited LGBTQ people to please leave the state if they are afraid. Just get out. Thank you, Frank Schaeffer. Much appreciated.